Okay, so welcome to our fourth episode of the Health Coaches Book Club. We are reading the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and we have covered first few chapters. Now we are in part 3, which is Eliminate. How can we cut out the trivial many? So there are several chapters under that and how we can go about doing it. So just as a recap, I just want to tell you, the first few topics was what was the mindset of an essentialist, the core mindset, which was choose, the power of choice, and noise, which is making out what is the additional information around us that we can actually, filter things out. And the third thing is trade-off, to know that you cannot do everything. You have to choose the important things, and so that we don't focus on the unimportant ones. The second part is to explore. That part is where we found out how to, escape, like create white spaces for us to actually really take a pause and look at things. Look and really visualize, and maybe even journal things. What is the importance of play, sleep, which was basically protecting our assets, keeping ourselves healthy. How the importance of play because we think it is very childlike and useless sometimes, like adults, like we have to be serious. So the importance of embracing our inner child, and the power of extreme criteria, where we say that if we really want to commit to this, then we say yes, otherwise we're going to say a no. So that's where we stopped. So let's start with eliminate. How can we cut out the trivial many? So Nayos, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, sure. I think out of that chapter, the main thing I got out of that is, so in eliminate. Oh, there's several little sections, right?
Yes.
So for clarify, I didn't have something written down, but for dare, it's to be able to say no firmly but skillfully. Like, how do you say no to things, right? Because in previous chapters we learned that everything is noise. Essentially, it's how everything is noise, and there will be opportunities, there will be favors, whatever it is being asked of you, and those are all, most of the time, those are all noise, and you need to learn how to skillfully say no. So I think that from their part, I think there's just to be able to say no tactfully. I think that's a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, I think we even discussed about this in the beginning itself. Like after we finished the recording, I was saying that, oh, this is all well and good, but then if your boss is going to ask you for something, how are you going to say no? And then you said that, oh, that's where the tact and the skill comes in, and how you're going to say that, oh, yes, boss, I can prioritize this, but I need to deprioritize something else. So yeah. How are we going to communicate that? Yeah. So we'll come into that section on dare in a few minutes, but actually there's an overview chapter on eliminate itself, right? So where the main point that I took away was, like, if I didn't have this opportunity, what would I be willing to do to acquire it? So most of the time we tend to take up something and do it, and then we basically like, oh, we are into it, so might as well do it, or we've committed, or we've already invested so much time, or whatever it is. But then when you pause and you say that, if I were to start this fresh, would I do it? Like, would I start this? So even I thought about this on our podcast as well, like, because we have done a few episodes with this. And then if I stopped and I asked, like, do I want to continue this? And it was a resounding yes for me, because it helps me to, connect with like-minded people and share ideas. So I find this extremely valuable. So every task, if we can create that pause to ask us, if I wasn't doing this, or I wasn't invested in this, would I do it? And then embark on that. So that was very critical question for eliminate for me. How about you, Rajiv?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's the key for this chapter. The clarity, the question, to be able to ask that question, that if I have not in author's word, he mentioned, if I didn't already own this from an object point of view, how much would I spend to buy it? That's so powerful, as Anju mentioned. So it's not enough to simply determine as well that which activities and efforts would not make best contribution. It is our next step in this chapter where author mentioned that we need to take steps, and elimination is it's very integrative to the whole theme of this book, where the trade-off is coming in the picture, clarity of decisioning is coming in the picture. So it's not only about knowing what to be eliminated, but to take that step with clarity and everything.
Yeah. So as you say, knowing is not enough. Doing is what makes the difference, right? So a lot of us, and that is the part where the dare or the courage really comes up, because you have to be absolutely confident and courageous to take that step. Because even if you can say it tactfully, there are so many social contracts and familial engagements and relationships which we feel like, oh, what if I say no? What will they think of me? You know, those kind of, all those emotions are also tied into that. So to absolutely be clear and to say no and stick with it is a courageous act. That's the daring part of it, right? Where we are saying no. So let's touch a little bit about this. Clarify one decision that makes 1,000. So that is the first section, right? How to clarify. So what stuck out for you guys? Like he talks about a mission statement for the different companies and how they all look very similar.
Yeah.
So most of our lives' mission statements are also very similar in that sense, right? Like we like, oh, I have to do a job, I have to take care of family, I have to do this. So it becomes, so what is your unique mission statement? So he discussed a couple of criteria to go about defining that. So would either of you want to jump in?
Should I go, Naz?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Rajiv.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting chapter, and to me, I totally agree with what Anju said. Clarity of the choices, knowing that we have choices. That the moment that clarity comes in, it becomes that is the first step, I should say, where the elimination or execution of that action comes into reality. So once if we don't have that clarity, that we have choices, everything will not come in place when we are talking about elimination. So the author actually gave us some of the patterns in our from a behavioral point of view, where he mentioned that when we do not have the clarity in an organizational context, when we see teams are working in silos because they don't know the clarity of the mission of whatever they are doing, or the vision, or what their manager is looking at, or the department is looking at. So that's one. The other pattern that the author mentioned is unless we have the clarity, we don't know what is good and what is bad. So everything becomes good at that point of time. Everything becomes an option for us. So a couple of such patterns he mentioned, and
I think all the politics playing, and being like the trying to show that you are better than the other person in front of your manager. All these kinds of behavior will only start because you really don't know what you are, shooting for. And why you are doing it. So so when the clarity, so the one important thing that he speaks about is like having this essential intent. So don't have like a generic vision or a mission statement where you say, I want to be the best, I want to uphold this quality, assure everything put together, and then you don't know what to focus at. But really have a very clear essential intent, where he says that have a time bound target as well as aspirational, let it be concrete as well as inspirational at the same time. So he talks about one of the statement where I think Brad Pitt's charity or something where they decided to build 150 sustainable greenhouses in the 9th ward of the New Orleans where Katrina hit. So it was very clear and very aspirational at the same time. Nayos.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that definitely was the most concise mission statement out of the examples that he gave, and just hearing you guys talking about this just now, it kind of took me a step back to my startup days, and we used to have issues competing for resources with the tech team, and we each had to sell like why what we need should take priority, and that goes to what we just discussed just now. Because there is no clear vision of what the company is striving for. That's why you have this different people requesting different priorities, and that is essentially why it makes clarity such an important thing when we talk about business. So it just kind of reminded me of that as an example.
Something just came up in my mind that, and probably there is a mentioning in the book. Clarity is not about the choices also, right, Anju and Ayos? It's about the mission itself. Like, there was a question, I cannot remember which page is it. There was a question, is that how would you know when you have completed something? What is the measurement?
What is the success? Yeah,
exactly. So when it goes back to our coaching space, where our clients and for our clients and for our coaches in similar way, where we need to determine the goals in an objective manner, so that we know when we achieve that goal, we know something has been. So there should be a measurement. So clarity, clarity relates to that clarity, that when we are making a choice, whether that choice, we will know when that choice is completed or when we have done it. So probably that's something.
Yeah. So the first part of being the inspirational part is how can could be truly excellent at only one thing. If let's say you are really good at doing just one thing, what would it be? So then you really can push yourself to inspire and aspire very highly in that space, to push yourself. At the same time, how will we know when we are done? That is the second half, to come up with a concrete concrete portion of it. So that is the essential intent that he was talking about in this topic. And also, it's not just in the workspace, and because most of the examples that we come up with is in the corporate space, it's easy to understand. But even at living with intent, our lives, I think can border, like mirror this approach. So I mean, I don't know if I will be putting you guys on a spot to ask you, have you thought about these things for yourself personally?
Well, yes, I think, and I struggle. So it's a journey, actually. When knowing these things, having a forum where we are discussing and sharing ideas, everything benefits. Everything, we grow every time. Every time we discuss and talk about these things, read these books, we grow a little bit. So when I say I struggle, I'm getting better. Definitely in everyday life and every instance, I should say that. These things are real.
How about you, Nayos?
I think not really, but the very last chapter, I haven't really actively thought about it, but I can definitely see the benefit if I was able to apply this strategically in my life. But to start, I think the last chapter, where it talks about, is it limit? Was that last chapter? In limit, I highlighted this part. It's about defining your boundaries, right?
Yeah.
We can go a little bit more later, but this part I highlighted is that be mindful of the small pinch in your when you go through your life, right? If that, the feeling that makes you feel even a twinge of resentment, that could be a clue for discovering your own hidden boundaries, right? So that could be a clue, just to, if you don't, I don't know what boundaries are, that could be like one strategy for you to use. If anyone asks you for anything, or uninvited opportunity comes along, if it makes you feel like that possibly could be one of the boundaries that you have for yourself that you didn't even know. So I think just be mindful of that feeling. It will definitely help start creating more concrete boundaries in your life.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
nice point.
Agree-
Yeah.
agree. That's a important point.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to explore like our personal takeaways from this book, how it is being applied, right? So for myself, I have been also in this exploration phase, as Rajiv is saying, it's a journey and figuring things out. And for all of us, our main, one of our key purpose or motivation, so to speak, is to explore how we can be better health coaches. That's one of the driving factors that has brought us together. So definitely that is one of my purpose as well. Like, but is that my only priority? No, right? So we have our family pieces and my main career, so to speak, and all these things also. So how to prioritize all that, and which one would take precedence over the others, and and boundaries is especially very something that I have been learning as well, because I have been a very easy, I want to please everybody, I want to make feel everybody that I care for them, and in that process I basically co-opt into their problems. And so even coaching has kind of taught me how not to co-opt other person's problems, because it's not your
Oh,
journey.
yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even in this book, they talk about that, right? Like, let them
Yeah.
own their problem. Otherwise we become enablers, and they are going to
Yeah.
stay with that. So it has helped me to see that as a parent as well, how
Yeah.
to let my child face their difficulties, deal with that emotions, and grow, rather than go quickly rescue them, So
Yeah.
there are a lot of learnings in that. So let's speak a little bit about that dare, where we are saying the graceful no. The author has discussed a few, like I think 8 or so strategies he's given. I found it quite useful for me, because I'm I wouldn't say I'm a yes man, but I would love to say yes first. And he says, say yes slowly and say no quickly. And even when you
Yeah.
say no, how do you say it with tact? Maybe
Yeah.
either of you, would you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think one of them, it's actually a super easy one
Mhm.
to apply right away, is
Uh-huh.
just pause.
Pause.
Just to pause before you answer. Like, because I know there are people, I need some volunteers for this. Before you feel like, oh yeah, I can do it. Pause. Like, just pause. Take a beat first. Take a moment first. Really think about it. Think it through before you start thinking, oh, it's not a big deal. I can just do it. It's not a problem. Because when you start doing that, you're pretty much accepting, you're letting other people define
Your
your agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not in control anymore. You're just letting other people define your agenda. We have to remember, this is all noise.
Yeah.
We need to define, is it essential or not? So take a pause before that urge to, I'll say it, or I'll do it. It's kind of awkward. Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
A volunteer. Take one for the team. You don't want to take essentialism is not, it's not about taking one for the team. Essentialism is about taking one for yourself, like making your own agenda a priority.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds selfish, kind of, but only if, but it's not really selfish, because when you're performing
at
on
that
things
highest level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're contributing a better you when it's needed. So yeah, so just take the pause.
Mm.
There are some mentioning about the how to develop that repertoire. I will leave that for the reader to read, and these are interesting and definitely a skill from a skill point of view. Just one thing I want to add, that there is a mentioning in this book that when we say no, and when we have the courage to say no, something would make it easier if we think strategically that so this no is a choice, a decision we are making, right? Saying no, taking a pause, as Nayas mentioned, take a pause and you go for the no, if that is okay. But it makes it easy if you consider that decision of saying no from the relationship with the person. So if you can separate these two,
the relationship
yeah.
from the person,
So if you
from
could,
the decision.
if you could do that, that when I'm saying no, I'm not saying no to the person. I'm saying no to the decision, to the
offer,
the topic or the offer. right? It has nothing to do with the relationship that you have or may have with that person. So that probably will make it easier, but I know it
comes with
sometimes
practice, right? And also the way you tell them, and so it's like, what are you willing to do, right? So there's a one in which where he says that one of the easier ways to do it would be let me check it, like if it's a professional thing, you can say let me check my calendar and come back, or you are welcome to X and I am willing to Y. So say something like,
that's
if
nice.
that person,
That's
a nice one that I thought
that's
that.
nice.
So what is the extent to which you are able to offer help? It's not like you are blanket saying, and this person is asking you for something. So you're going to say that, if you want to go on this trip, maybe you can borrow whatever, my stuff, and then I'm willing to park it out of your house. You can drive a car, something like that. So those things I thought it was useful. And also humor. Sometimes people who are close can appreciate the way you can say, in a funny way. So those are some interesting things. Yes, Nayos?
Yeah, no, I think the big part of it is that saying no doesn't mean you have to include the word no to the request or to the asker or anything like that. Your response does not have to include the word no. So just be able to figure out how you can communicate the message without actually saying the word no alone, I think makes it a little bit easier on both sides to take. Yeah.
The next one is about uncommit, win big by cutting your losses. This one I found is also like, once I pick up something and I say this is mine, then it becomes very hard to give up.
Yeah.
So so when I know that I'm owning something, like let's say you put forth an idea and you kickstart a project, and then you recruit a bunch of people into it and start doing it, and then it's not working out. It's not working out. None of the people are interested, and then you're like dragging everybody. Then maybe it's time to say, okay, this is not for me, and then cut your there and then move on. So we have this sunk cost bias, so that we have put in. So I heard a friend and I just said hi to her. I said, hey, what's happening? She said, oh, I'm having a massive headache. I'm like, what happened? I just sat through 3 hours of this very crappy movie and I went to the theater. I'm like, oh, okay, why did you sit through? Oh, I paid so many rupees for it and I have to, so you feel like you paid the tickets, you have to watch the movie. But then at the end, you're like, you didn't like the movie and you had a massive headache. So, so that's a kind of, that's a very good illustration, I feel. So when can you cut your losses?
Yeah. And I think another part about cutting your losses is that, for example, let's say, for work or for yourself, it's a decision that you made, right? When you cut your losses in that way, it almost feels like you made the wrong decision, right? It kind of attacks your ego a little bit. And I think that's something I can relate in the past. I'm much better about that now. But there's a line in here in the book that I really like that helps with that feeling. There should be no shame in admitting to a mistake. After all, we really are only admitting that we are now wiser than we once were. So by admitting that means you're actually wiser now than you were when you made the decision or when you committed yourself. So if you think of it that way, it actually becomes a little bit easier for you to uncommit.
Yeah. And even when we are coaching people, maybe make a commitment at the end of the session that they want to do something and they try and then they come back and they feel like, this is not for me. And so we always couch it as an experiment, as something that they are learning from it, right? So it's not something like, oh, this one you do or you die, there's nothing like that. So that kind of helps as well. Okay. So next part is about editing your life. What did you most enjoy about that chapter? Edit.
But it's a enjoyed, and it's totally a skill, frankly speaking. It's an advanced skill, I should say. It comes definitely directly related to elimination, but when correcting something or it sort of means probably in author's term, it meant cutting something, condensing something, or correcting our lives from a daily, day-to-day routine point of view. It must not sound very realistic, but if we are in a position to do that and do that gracefully, that will come back with a huge return. To me, it's an advanced skill, Anju, from my experience point of view.
From my point of view, I thought that, when I read this chapter, the thing that kept hitting me was this mindfulness aspect of it, right?
Okay.
Where you are becoming a witness to your own day-to-day life. Like at least mindfulness helps you to do that, right? Like it takes a third person point of view.
Yeah.
So you are the author of your life, but you also can be the editor or a witness who can, say that, oh, this is going well. So you keep it as it is. There's a restraint there. There's, that's beautiful. That piece is very nice. Don't go mess around. Don't go over engineer it. That's awesome. Leave it. And this part, you are okay. You are scrolling social media over a couple of hours. And if I really ask you why you're doing it, you don't have a clear answer to that. Like if let's say there's a editor of Steven Spielberg's thing is there, right? So let's say if Steven Spielberg shoots 2 hours of video and the editor is looking at it and he's like, why did he shoot? So I don't think Spielberg will just shoot 2 hours of home video for no reason, right? So there's a meaning. So social media scrolling is like that. So you don't have an answer for that as to why you are doing it. Even if you ask yourself why, there's no clear. But let's say if I say I'm taking my I'm going for a walk. If I ask you why you're doing it, it's very clear. It's very obvious, the answer, because I want to be healthy for myself and my children. The answer comes instantly. But for all these fringe activities, the answers doesn't come immediately.
No.
So as an editor, when you ask that question, the author, who you are, basically you're playing both roles, those answers come instantly, right? So when there's no answers, you can say, okay, maybe cut this off slowly. But with restraint, you can still do it. So that's what I found enjoyable about that particular chapter.
Doing less came up, right, in that discussion. That doing less is also, it is not about wasting your energy and resource into something, but also it's a way to edit as well. So that's a skill. It's not just a strategy to do less or to say less. It's a powerful editorial tool as well.
Yeah. Nayos, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, doing less. And also I think one of the parts I highlighted as well is that just the act of not adding more, not necessarily taking existing things out, but just the act of not adding more things into your life is a powerful editorial skill. The example they gave is that if you're part of a group email, by not be resist, you can resist. You can resist the urge to be the first one to reply all on something, right? And then so things like that, resist that urge. It's a powerful editing skill already.
Sure. That's nice. That's a good add-on. So we come to the last chapter, which is the limit, which is boundaries. We briefly discussed it earlier on setting boundaries.
One thing, if you ask me in one word, I love that quote that he mentioned. No is a complete sentence. It's amazing, right? So we thought that no, if I said no to somebody, there will be consequences, but it's actually no. If you can develop that characteristics that people would know us, that when we focus into something, we really focusing on something, and when we are saying no, that means no. So it goes with our character also. So the boundary, to establish the boundary, definitely no is a powerful tool, but the way you say it and how you characterize it with your personality is something to be something to pay attention to. But that's a nice way to put it, that no is a complete sentence. It comes with our character.
Yeah. So he talks a bit about how the boundary is actually a source of liberation. It creates that,
Yeah.
you sometimes feel like when you set boundaries, you are like saying no to a lot of people and you're like, shelling yourself,
Yeah.
but actually it's very freeing. Because some people, string you along. They say, yeah, maybe, and then they never do it, so you don't know what's going on. So it's like you're always on limbo. So those kind of things goes away, and you also are very clear when you say no to the other person. Like, okay, so I didn't commit to this, so
Yeah.
I'm free of this. So you can focus on something more important.
The limit part I really enjoyed a lot, and I feel like after reading all these chapters beforehand, if you feel like you don't know, you don't have the clarity of what you want to do, but starting here can be a start as well. Like starting here by figuring out what your boundaries are, what are you not willing to do, could be a start to kind of reverse engineer what your clarity is. What is it? What is your mission statement? Like knowing what you don't want in your life
Mhm.
and setting those boundaries will kind of help you towards a clear mission statement as well, working it backwards.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah,
that's a very
true.
cool way of. So let's say like if let's say like for me personally, when you said that, it triggered this thing. I really absolutely don't want to keep going to the hospital when I'm old. Like I don't want to have chronic conditions where I keep going and getting medication, and I don't want that. So when you're very sure that you don't want that, then you know that what you need to do on the other side.
Yeah.
Or some
Yeah.
people are like, okay, old age means you have to take all these 10 different medication like a little spice box. And if
Yeah.
you're of that mindset, then maybe the way you look at things will be very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Superb. Okay, Rajiv, anything you wanna?
No, that's it. I think we can close
Okay.
with
Thank you guys for listening and supporting us so far.
Thank you, everyone.
We hope to continue and finish this book and maybe start one soon. Actually, we had a break in the middle, so we're just trying to, still
I
continue.
can
Yes,
say it.
yeah.
I got COVID. So
Naya's got COVID.
It's
I got COVID.
it's now a
alive and
seasonal thing,
well.
isn't it? Yeah, it's
and
sort of a
he's
seasonal
he's
thing.
really is recovered beautifully, so we are very happy about that.
Yeah,
Good job,
true.
Nayos. So, all right, see you guys. Take care.
Cool.